Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks, how will the government ensure community involvement in decisions around the rebuilding of Christchurch?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the government has been closely involved with local authorities in Christchurch right from the beginning of this tragedy. We intend to continue working closely with local government and the community to ensure that Christchurch and the surrounding areas are rebuilt, reflecting the wishes and concerns of Cantabrians. But I think it's important to point out that this will be a locally led process. We will not be imposing a central government-driven vision on Christchurch.
Dr Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Will the government consider supporting a panel of representatives which would encompass the community, local government, business, planning, architecture and heritage sectors to plan a way forward for the rebuilding of Christchurch?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I think it's too early to make those comments. So at the moment we're dealing with the immediate after effects of the earthquake. What I can say is that the government is considering the option of putting in an earthquake commissioner that would be responsible for the rebuild and recovery phase. That may be an option that they want to consider. All I can say is, having been there last night and today and obviously on Saturday, there is an enormous amount of goodwill from all of the participants to try and take this process forward constructively and with the best long-term interests of Christchurch. But if the member wants to suggest some people, they may or may not form part of the mix.
Dr Russel Norman.
Can the Prime Minister give us some sense of what would be the powers of the Commissioner that the government's proposing?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
It would be too early for us to comment on that, Mr Speaker. I mean, our primary focus at the moment, as I say, outside of providing emergency services for people in terms of welfare relief and trauma counselling, as well as getting immediate infrastructure services reconnected, is to start looking at how we can expedite the rebuilding of people's homes in Christchurch, and that's been our primary focus. At this stage, there's a meeting taking place this afternoon with relevant players that may shed some light on whether any changes need to be made to the law to help that process take place, or whether it can happen within the existing legislative framework.
Dr Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can his government allay the concerns expressed on Close-Up by Peter Bevan, a Canterbury architect? He was concerned that some buildings could be needlessly torn down, destroying the Christchurch's heritage and changing some of the unique character of Christchurch.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the advice I have is that the decision to demolish buildings is a local decision made based solely on public safety. And so that is the primary reason why a building would be destroyed. We can't override that. I this morning visited, amongst other sites, the Hororata Church, for instance. Clearly buildings like that with a strong historical significance to the people of Canterbury would be wonderful buildings to save if that was possible. But the first and primary concern has to be about the public safety of those who might go into those buildings.
Question number 6, Sue Moroney.